Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Everywhere I look, I see the face of God shining back at me. I'm talking about all the people, and I'm talking about all the people, whatever time of day you're here now, the physical and body people, and we have the people who are online, live streaming. And what a miracle this whole idea is of live streaming. Because divine mind never ever stops, so why should the message ever stop? So now that I have talked on and on, how about I tell you, this is Red Deer Center for Spiritual Living, and we're in Alberta, Canada. And it's a beautiful place to live. I have to put that brag in because it is. But I'm sure everywhere is beautiful because God essence is there. And it's January the 30th, 2022. Now, I'm going to do a few announcements. First of all, we have our membership open, and you will see inside your bulletin there is a 2022 membership form if you would like to fill that out. Or you can see online how you may become a member, because our online members, you are very important to us, and it's free. I always like to hear things are free. But just feeling a part of, just being here today, you are a part of this center, so thank you for being here. And now I would like to read the Growing Spirit Circle. This is for our children of all ages. Reliability. Reliability means that others can depend on you to do what you have agreed to do without forgetting or having to be reminded. When you practice being reliable, others can count on you. You keep a promise you have made, even if it's difficult. You really care about doing what you said you would. And the affirmation is, I always give my best. So if you will repeat with me, I always give my best. And I found in our Science of Mind magazine this morning the most beautiful meditation by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And it says, I am at peace because I know I live and move and have my being in the divine spirit that flows through everything. I feel this perfect presence at the center of my own being, and I feel that divine guidance in governing all my affairs. I let go and let God. As a child relaxes in the arms of its mother, so I relax in the thought of all sustaining good, the ever-present love, and the all-knowing wisdom. Tonight, as I seek the response of peace, and this morning, as I seek the response of peace, I shall say to myself, I am in peace and joy and live in the consciousness of good. And let your thought be, I am sustained. Today I am guided. Today I am led. Today I give the world the best that I have. Today the God in me meets the God in others and in events. Today is God's day and it is a good day. God goes with me. Love sustains me. Goodness directs me, and all the power that there is envelopes me in the perfect presence. For we are all one in God. Right now, I am at peace. Aren't those beautiful words? And what a wonderful way to start the day. to introduce Reverend Judy Andersen, who's going to talk to us about use it and prove it. Reverend Judy.
Good morning. And what a joy it is to be here with you, those of you who are in this room and those of you who are watching online. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your joy. Thank you for simply being who you are. And let's begin with what we call a spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. Right here and right now, I declare the good of this day. This day is good because it is. Every day is a little more of God unfolding in this universe, in our world, in our little corner of our world. This day is blessed. Each one of us is blessed. And I know that there is a higher and greater good awaiting each one as we open ourselves to that possibility, as we allow it, as we accept it, and declare it to be. And so it is. And you probably thought I was going to go right into the talk that I sort of prepared. But instead, I have to share with you something that happened in the meditation this morning. I had a big awakening, a big understanding. And the center point of it is an understanding, not that all that God is, I am, right where I am, God is, but right where I am, all of God is. And it was, for me during the meditation, it was huge. That it's not a little bit of God in Tress and a little bit of God in Gordon, a little bit of God in Susan and Diane or Judy, but all of God is right where I am. So that is my new mantra. Try meditating on that a little bit. All that God is right here, right now, expressing itself not only through me, but as me. So all that God is right here, right now. So that was a big thing for me today. But now we'll get on with the use it and prove it. And normally in January, our Science of Mind ministers teach the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind. And the first chapter is called The Thing Itself. And the thing itself is what we call God. And many names for it, but the thing itself, I'm trying to come up with some idea of how big it is, how encompassing it is. And one of the major points in that first chapter is something I'm going to read. To suppose that a creative intelligence, and we assume that a creative intelligence created this world of ours, but to assume that that intelligence would create man in bondage and leave him bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God. To suppose that God could make man as an individual without leaving him free to discover himself would be to suppose an impossibility. The idea that God could create man as an individual and then not leave him to discover himself on his own, that would be an impossibility. So when I hear somebody say, oh, it must be God's plan for me, I want to throw up. To be quite honest, our teaching says God doesn't have a plan for you. God might have a purpose for you, which is to unfold more and more of your own divine nature. But a plan, if God had a plan for me, I might as well just be a robot and be, or on an assembly line, just being hauled along to whatever awaits me according to that plan. But an intelligent, creative mind has created me to discover myself and to create my own experience and find my way to a higher and greater good with something within me which, if I'm open to it, will guide and direct, but I'm not a robot just following a pre-described plan. So that is the first chapter, the thing itself. We understand the thing itself to be all of the wisdom there is, all of the knowledge there is, all of the power there is, all of the substance there is, all of the love there is. This universe and any other universes have come into being through God acting upon God and God's thoughts being evolved into a physical form, taking what we call the undifferentiated and giving it a form. So we can call the physical world the body of God. So if we are the body of God, what does that open up? Is the body of God diseased and in pain and stiff and suffering? The body of God, if we understand it fully, is whole, complete, and perfect. The body of God doesn't know illness. You know, the science of mind teaching is that illness and suffering were not ordained, but they were the result of man's freedom to make choices, and make some choices that led to a belief in pain and suffering and disease. So as we can start understanding more fully that all of God is right where I am, and that all of God does not include a stiff back or a painful hip. As I come to that understanding, then all of a sudden, that pain is gone. All of a sudden, I understand that knowing the fullness of God right where I am frees me to enjoy this life to the utmost degree that I allow. And that is a little bit the thing itself. If you can get some feeling of expansiveness, that there is so much more right within you, not a little snippet of God, just enough to make you hungry, but all of God is right where you are. Isn't that huge? And let's go on to the second chapter, is the way it works. And you're probably all familiar with the quotation from Genesis that God moved upon the face of the waters, and he separated the dry land from the waters, etc., etc. Well, I just love those words. God moved upon the face of the waters. God moved upon the face of my being. God moved upon the physical universe and brought forth the stars and the oceans and the mountains and the animals and the people. God moved upon its own intelligence, upon its own mind, and brought forth all that we experience in our physical world. And another quotation out of the science of mind is that God creates by becoming its own creation. Imagine that. God created this chair by becoming this chair. Can you see all that God is present in a chair or a floor or the earth or the sky or Reverend Truss or Gord or Diane or Susan? God has created by becoming its own creations. That takes another step forward. And isn't that exciting? God creates. Can't help but creating. God's thought moved upon the face of the waters, moved upon the face of humanity, upon every being. And God's ideas take form. Guess what else is true? If all of God is right where you are, then your ideas take form. My ideas take form. Thoughts are not only things, and here's a popular quotation from Ernest Holmes, and it's a popular saying in our Science of Mind teaching, thoughts are things, but take it a step further, as Ernest Holmes does, thoughts are not only things, they are the cause of things. Thoughts are the cause of things. So we take that and hold on to that thought, and we move on to chapter 3, what it does. One mind, and it's creative. My mind, your mind, God's mind are one mind. And that mind acts by corresponding. It corresponds. If we're playing catch and I throw Gordon a red and blue and white ball and he throws it back to me, what am I going to receive? A red and blue and white ball, right? That's corresponding. It's going to feed back to me that which I put out there. This is where it gets tricky. If our thoughts are creative, and if the power that God is and that we are acts upon those thoughts, and we throw out a red and white and blue ball and expect to get a green one in return, that's not going to work, is it? It isn't going to work. That power works by corresponding to our dominant thoughts and feelings. Note that word, dominant. I can have a fleeting thought, I hope I don't catch a Reverend Truss's cold. But if I don't give it any serious thought and just fleeting and it disappears, then it's probably not going to have any effect on me. But if I dwell on it, well, Reverend Truss has a cold and here she is, and how come she's here, and we're all going to catch that cold. Wow. And I implant that deep in my mind. Guess what? Mind is going to respond to me by corresponding, by bringing me that which I put my attention on. And by the way, people, Reverend Truss doesn't have a cold. I made that up.
I was ready to pipe up.
Yes, Reverend Truss is perfectly fine, but I needed an example. So there we go. So what we call the law of God. God is mind, and mind includes law, the same as our physical world has laws, like the law of gravity. It doesn't matter whether you're a priest or a homeless person on a street in Calcutta. Mind responds, physical laws respond, and we don't get to think one kind of thing and expect a different kind of thing. Right, Reverend Kraft?
Yeah.
She agrees with me. It must be so. So the way it works is by corresponding. And now we get to the important part, to what I wanted to bring us to is, well, wait, I'll read you a little story first, and then we'll get around to the use it and prove it part of this. One day, Johnny decided that he wanted to get healthier. pardon me. So he joined the local gym. Included in his membership were 3 sessions with a personal trainer. At their first meeting, after listening to Johnny's goals, the trainer helped him create a plan and showed him some exercises to get him started. Johnny paid attention to what the trainer was showing him, and he even took notes. Johnny left the gym feeling excited. Johnny met with the trainer again a few weeks later. The trainer gave Johnny some more exercises, suggested a couple of classes offered at the gym that he might like, and talked about a few possible nutrition changes that Johnny might consider. At the 3rd session, Johnny complained to his trainer that he just wasn't seeing the results that he had hoped for. Curious and wanting to better assist Johnny in achieving his goals, the trainer asked him a few questions. What classes have you taken? I haven't taken any, Johnny answered. What dietary changes have you made? Well, I haven't made any. Of the exercises I showed you, which ones do you do most often? Wait, what? You mean I'm supposed to actually do them? Johnny exclaimed in disbelief. We can laugh at that story, but look at our own lives. Take different examples. If we are saying that we want abundance and prosperity, and we go along all day moaning about what we lack, what's going to happen. You know that law I mentioned? The thing that responds by corresponding? What happens? If you want an increase in abundance, where do your dominant thoughts need to be? They need to be on abundance, on gratitude, how much we already have. And Tress, I'm going to ask you, will you bring me a tissue? Thank you. So, when we're thinking, okay, we'll take COVID, when we're thinking doom and gloom, and this is going to get everybody sooner or later, and I'm probably going to get it and wind up in the hospital and having all these unpleasant things done to me, how are we going to demonstrate health if our thoughts are on COVID, COVID, COVID? How are we going to demonstrate health if we keep our thoughts on, I hope I'm not going to get it, I hope it doesn't come to me, instead of concentrating on all that God is fully present right where I am. All of God is acting through me. That's where our thoughts need to be. And I'll give you a little example. I play a word game, sort of like crossword puzzles, on my iPad. And there are a few little things down this side, and if I touch one of them, it takes 100 of the points I've earned and gives me the first letter of a word. But further down at the bottom, there's another little place that if I touch it, it'll take 300 of my points, and it'll fill in stuff I don't need that maybe provides some of the words. But the way I was using it, using that finger to get the letters I wanted and get the words I wanted, but these fingers were floating, and they would hit that bottom button by accident, draining away 300 points every time they touched it. Then I learned to tuck these fingers in and only have that finger out, so nothing could touch that button that took 100 points or 300 points away from me. And you know what? It wasn't that easy to get used to doing that. I played this one round and it worked perfectly, and then I went and had a cup of coffee or a cookie or something, and I came back and played and I forgot about it, and those fingers were out, and guess what? But over the period of the last 2 weeks, I've learned by practicing to keep those fingers curled under and only use the finger that I want to use to make a change in the game I'm playing. It's practice, 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 and everything we do. So that's a simple illustration. So if there's something in your life that you're really wanting and feeling the need for or a deep desire for, it might be a trip to Hawaii. It might be a new relationship. It might be anything. But if you start doing affirmations and spiritual mind treatment, and you do that one day, and the next day you go back to thinking, oh, well, there's nobody out there for me, and I'll never be able to afford that trip to Hawaii, and you spend the next 3 days thinking that, it's like my only using this finger folding technique one day, and then going back to having them all flopping around out there, hitting the wrong button. So it's a matter of using your thought consistently to move upon the waters of your own affairs. If all of God is right where you are, and God moved upon the waters and separated the seas and the dry land, and all of God is right where you are, you get to move upon the substance and the unfolding of your own affairs, your own body. Do you get it? That you have the power, all of God, right where you are. Not a little smidgen, not just enough to tease, but all of God right where you are. Isn't that amazing? It's a huge thing for me. So here, really, our meditation this morning is really running this message, which is wonderful. I always try to meditate on or treat myself before I'm doing a message that Spirit speaks through me the message that needs to be heard. So I hope that is coming through to you. So, using it, proving it. Where does the proving it come in? It's sort of like my exercise, proving that by keeping my fingers folded under, I could keep those points for a time when I really needed them or wanted them to finish off a game or something, as opposed to just letting them happen randomly. That's the way it is with our thoughts. And that's the way it is with proving the principles of science of mind. We're told there's a power in the world, a power for good in the world, greater than we are, and that we can use it. And that is how we use it, by making a decision, by changing the direction of our thoughts, and keeping that direction changed. But new people in science of mind that have just taken their first class often begin by demonstrating parking places. Anybody else but me been there? Yes. And it works. And we get to prove it. Prove the principle by demonstrating parking places. And then maybe we go on and think, well, it works. When I'm demonstrating parking places, I wonder what I can tackle next. Do I want an intimate, loving relationship to come into my experience? If the answer is yes, guess what we start doing? We start concentrating not on what a jerk so-and-so is, or what a bad experience that last relationship was, or what a horrible marriage I had, or that's not the way to attract the new and wonderful, perfect, loving relationship that we desire. So what do we need to do? We need to keep studying, keep reading, keep practicing. And if all that God is right where I am, then that which God is operating through me can demonstrate this wonderful relationship that I truly desire. And this relationship has everything. There's fun and there's play, there's loving, there's sharing, there is doing things together, it's being in a relationship, a true relationship. But we have to use it properly. A fleeting thought or writing out one day a list of the things we'd like in a relationship, like we really would like that other person to be much more perfect than we are. We probably have to do a few things for ourselves to make ourselves the person that person we desire would be drawn to. So the first step in a relationship is not only look at the qualities we want in the other being, but to examine ourselves and say, how many of those qualities am I showing up with? And that is part of the process. We've got what it is and how it works and how to use it, but we have to use it conscientiously and from the depth of our own being, not trying to use it fruitless, absolutely useless, to try to use the God in me to change the other person. It ain't gonna work at all. But if I use these principles of science of mind, I can prove them, not just the parking spot, not just the trip to Hawaii, not just that loving relationship, but everything in my experience. Health, joy, love, flexibility, vitality, anything that I might desire if I dedicate myself to thinking and acting as though it were so, without watering it down by throwing in the negatives, then I am going to demonstrate those things. And that is how we prove it. We prove it by practicing. We prove it by trying it out. You want to buy a new car, you're not just going to order it online, you're probably going to go to an auto dealer and take something out for a test drive. And that is proving whether or not that vehicle might meet your needs. Well, it's the same with the science of mind principles. We test drive them. We try them, we work with them, we have fun with them. And when we start seeing some results, then we start working on the next thing and the next thing until finally the light bulb goes on and we get it. All of God is right where I am, expressing through me. Not a little piece of it, not a sliver, not a smidgen. All of God right where I am. And I rejoice in that. It is a wonderful knowingness. And so it is. Now let's get back to the rest of our program. And one of the things that we need to demonstrate in our own lives and in the life and existence of our Center for Spiritual Living is prosperity. So let's begin by reading our prosperity affirmation together. My experience of abundance fills and overflows, washing away any need to hold my good to myself. And so I share and let the good flow freely, knowing that as I give, I am constantly replenished. I count my blessings and live from a grateful heart. Life is good, so am I, and so it is. And if you choose to share with the center to help with our upkeep, our maintenance, while we don't have a whole lot of bodies in the seats, if you are in the room, of course, you may deposit your donation envelope in the basket. And if you're at home, there's many ways that you can donate, whether you choose to mail a check or phone and inquire about direct deposit, or sign a committed giving form. Whatever it is, give in the way that works for you, even if it's only a prayer for our continued prosperity. So thank you for that, and let's read our closing affirmation together. This day, I know that the perfection of spirit is active in my body and in the body of my affairs. I am well, wise, prosperous, and joyous. Anything unlike this truth gently falls away from my experience, leaving me free to love my life, and I do, and so it is. And a short closing treatment. In gratitude, I open my heart, knowing that right where God is, I am, that right where I am, God is, not in part, but in whole, the whole of God's love and wisdom, the whole of God's beingness and power and grace, right here where I am. With loving thanks, I release these words, and so it is.